And the reason why I always cite it as being my favourite metal drum it is really, again, it's the same thing as everything else. It's the So I asked on Instagram fairly recently, should I do a video going over my favourite, like a list of favourite snare drums. I know I've done a video or two on, my favourite snare drums, but I've never really sort of gone into much depth with that, and I thought now would be a reasonable time. I didn't actually really, I think when I asked the question, I hadn't given it much thought. And once I had started giving it some thought, I realised that actually, out of all my personal stash, I have a lot of wood drums, I have a lot of metal drums, then I have a handful of the sort of synthetics, the acrylics and fiberglass and stuff like that. So when my thoughts were originally that I would just do one video, that's going to be 2 videos. Yeah. I've got 8 drums here, which is weird because I'd actually only counted 7 when I started to get this together the other day. But hey, 1 extra, it's fine. So these aren't in any particular order, but as you will see, I mean I will go over why they're my favourite drums. They're not all favourite playing drums as such, but and here we go, I suppose. So first one is everyone needs a 24 karat gold plated snare drum with their name on it. You probably ain't gonna see it too well, but there you go. It's got my name on it on the panel. Now this drum is my AK Triumphal, and I have done a video. I think I've done a video on all of these drums actually, but this drum I asked Adrian to make me in 2008, and I did some toing and froing in on the email, and then a friend of mine who is Italian. I think I needed something clarifying. I can't for the life of me remember what it was now, but I think I needed something clarifying with Adrian, and obviously not obviously, but I don't speak Italian. And I was talking to a friend of mine at the time who is Italian, and he very kindly phoned Adrian up and talked to him, and it was lovely. And then he came back to me and translated, and but I mean this took a little while for Adrian to build. Even then, I mean, that long ago he had a waiting list, which is always a good thing. I did find out recently, a friend of mine's actually ordered a snare drum, and Adrian now apparently has a 2-year waiting list, which is absolutely fantastic, especially in times like we are now and all that. I think it's fantastic that you've got so much work, you have to wait for 2 years for it. So that's fantastic. Adrian, if you see this, mate, absolutely well done. I'm thrilled that that's the case for you. But to be honest, right, first up, I very rarely play this drum. I got this. It was more. It was more just for the hell of it than anything else. But at the same time, this is basically a 2-piece brass shell. It's all completely specced out to be just like one of those drums from the 1920s and the 1930s. So basically like the Ludwig Deluxe, the Black Beauty. It's specced out to be pretty much that sort of thing. And this is the most vintage modern drum that I have. I've got a few that kind of feel like vintage, have a sort of vintage feel and vibe to them, but this really does absolutely capture that feel. And I've got a drum. I've mentioned it a couple of times, although I've never done a video on it. I'll have to dig it out and do one. But I do have a vintage drum that is a leady drum that is give or take 100 years old, and that's a 6-lugger, so it only does so much without, and it's got the clips on it again as well, so I don't know how to tighten it or anything, but But you know, the two drums have a very similar vibe to them, even though they were made so completely far apart. And this is basically a 24 karat gold plated brass shell. You've got single flanged hoops. You've got obviously the clips there. I will throw some pictures up on the screen anyway, but and I'm sure some of you have seen this before, especially on Instagram, right? I've posted a few pictures of it recently. You know, 10 tube lugs, 2, 4, 6, 8. When I say 10, I mean 8, of course. Obviously, you know, it was a vanity project, as I said. My name is in the thing, but the drum itself, actually, and I should say this. This was I asked Adrian to basically do the engraving, which probably won't come up on camera, like you know, given the lighting in here. But all basically the hoops and the shell are all completely hand engraved, and I asked Adrian to base the engraving on one of Mike Curotto's original. Basically, one of these, the Ludwig Gold Triumphal. He had about, and that was from, I think it was one of the I want to say like page 14 or 13 from Mike Curotto's book that came out in about 2006. It was the Curotto collection. I'll try. I've got the books in the house. I'll try and dig it out and I'll find exactly what page it was. But I remember at the time saying that to Adrian. Adrian came back and said that, you know, he'd always wanted to sort of do you know, some engraving along on that base, or the basis of what's on that drum. So it was a complete thrill. Adrian, I can't say enough nice things about Adrian's work, because basically, you know, it would sound like I'm a spluttering fanboy. Well, I am a spluttering fanboy, so who am I kidding anyone? But the thing is the work is such a fantastic high quality. You don't have to be a drummer to appreciate this drum. You know what? And if I never played this drum again, I would still lose none of my enthusiasm for it. I mean, really the only reason I don't play it very often is that it's not, like I said, it's designed to be a vintage drum, and I don't have any particular reason other than to bring it in here and play it occasionally to use it in that, because I don't do anything in that sort of environment, setting, vibe, feel, or anything like that. But it really is. It's an amazing drum. I've got you know, regular ambassador snare side on the bottom, and I've actually got skin tone on the batter side, which was a recommendation from the fantastic gentleman that is Jeff Davenport of Remo and Drum Tuning Workshops. If you are in, well, check him out on Instagram, basically, Drum Tuning Workshops on Instagram. Jeff is a master of knowing all about Remo products and making drums sound good with them on them. And Jeff recommended the skin tone, and it really does actually work for this drum. So, but as I said, it's a two-piece brass shell. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, if you look, well, obviously you can't look inside, but you know, if you were to look inside, well, maybe you could see it there. Actually, you can see that sort of dark line at the bottom of the shell where it sort of intersects with the head. I mean, that's basically you know, all the work on the bearing edge and stuff, and it's just wonderful. It's just, you know, it's a handmade drum made by an absolute master, and you know, as I said, I can't, I will, I do always sound like a gushing fanboy when I talk about well, Adrian's work in general, but this, and there's another one to come as well, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's as I said, this was a complete vanity project, and I got it at a time where I was single. I didn't really have to worry about you know, an awful lot, and I knew at the time that I was never going to be in quite the same position to be able to afford it. So that's kind of why I did it when I did it. And the drum's 13 years old now. It's a bit grubby because most of the time it's on display in the house. So whilst I don't get to play it every day or even regularly. I do get to enjoy it every single day. And I never stop looking at this. There never a day goes by where I don't look at this drum. You know, at least a few times. It's there. It sits in my living room, and it's just it is a joy to behold. It's a joy to actually hold as well. You know, and it's just so wonderful to look at the work. Sort of up close and appreciate it. I guess it's one of those things like like Rembrandts and Constables and Picassos and things like that. You can look at them from afar and see the obvious, and then you can go up close and then appreciate the more detailed nuance of what is in front of you, and that's what I get every time I pick this drum up. It's just wonderful. As I said, it's not a very practical playing drum for me. Hopefully one day it will be, but it's not to say, as I said, obviously that I wouldn't gig it. I would, but playing ska music most of the time and the occasional rock covers don't really have much call for a drum like that. So it is what it is. Right, as I said, this is no particular order. It actually is a little amusing to me that I've got 3 cast bronze drums, but what does that say about me right now? Right, so next one. I think this was kind of one of the ones that I kind of was like I think this was number 8 really. So this is the one it's something I'm struggling with right now. So this is the this is the Ochiltree tree bronze, and I'll wave that around just before I try not to drop it. I am going to put it down because it does weigh about 30 pounds. I think for me, I'm a big fan of Danny Carey. I enjoy Tool's music, but I'm a big fan of Danny Carey's playing. Danny Carey always used one of these for a long time. This is the only one of these drums which I've seen in person. I know someone else who has a few of them, including one I actually put him onto, which I rather, looking back in hindsight, I probably should have bought as well. But that's cool. No, I'll live and learn one day. But this is the 14x8. If you hadn't gathered the fact that it's so damn big, this is the 14.8 version of the tree bronze, and I think, as I said in the video that I did about a year ago or so, I think of this drum. I knew about these drums for an awful long time, and I still have no idea why I knew about them. Unfortunately, they do come with a bit of a sort of a caveat to all the positivity, unfortunately. But this is a great drum. It's kind of a big, no nonsense, just really does one thing kind of drum. But this was, I think, the reason I've included this is because it was a bit of a unicorn for me. Because, as I said, I knew about it for a long time, or knew about them for a long time, and I just don't know. I never really thought I'd own one. I never thought I'd really see one, because I don't think you really see these. I've never seen one of these over here. I don't think you tend to get too many of them over here. I don't know how many there are, or knocking around. I don't know if this is actually numbered or not. No, I think this may have a stamp in it somewhere. I can't quite remember off the top of my head whether it does or it doesn't. Let's have a quick look. No, I can't see a stamp in there. That's not to say there isn't one, but it's a 5mm cast bronze shell. It's a Duluth shell. Who many of you will know the name Duluth. But it's a cast bronze 5mm shell. It's got heavy duty hoops on it as well. You got the single nodal lugs, and this one is actually 10. I'm going to double check it. 24, yeah, this is definitely 10. I think the only weak point of this really is the strainer, which does genuinely need replacing, because I think this one is on its way out. But it's fine, because I mean, I don't use this drum. I'm more likely to use this drum than I am the Triumphal. I'll say that. But at the same time, you know, there are other options. So, you know, I will get around to replacing this thing at some point. But this is just a beast of a drum, really. I mean, it's really all it is. It's just loud and a beast of a drum. It's fantastic. And as I said, I never thought I'd actually own one. So I'm thrilled that I do. One drum that I may have actually... let me just count. So 2, 4, 6... Yeah, there is 8. So I am right in my counting. So this drum... Okay, this is probably, which is funny really, this is probably like the low... Yeah, this is like the lowliest drum on this list. And if you in terms of pricing, in fact, this is by far the lowliest. This is, and I forgot the model number, this is a pearl aluminium, well, it's just basically, it's a pearl aluminium shelled snare drum. It's from the 80s. I got this a couple of years ago, and I think I saw it on Facebook, actually, Facebook Marketplace, and I thought, it's nicely priced, and I don't really sort of have anything like that. I absolutely, whatever it is about the mojo with this shell and these heads, just completely works for me. Absolutely completely works for me. I've got a G1 on the top and a 300 on the bottom. I usually have, if I've got an Evans on the bottom, it's usually a 300 hazy. And it's got the extended wires, which are probably the original ones. I'm kind of sitting in the middle on the fence with regards to this design of mechanism. Now, I've got this basically design on 3, 4, 5, 6 pearl snare drums. I mean, the others are basically free floaters, but I've got this design. It's a nice idea. I do like it. It's kind of very similar to the Dynasonic sort of thing, where the wires are kissing the head rather than being pulled down like they normally do with you know, with string or cord or whatever. So, like, you imagine you can get a sort of a fairly, there you go. So I think that should be okay. So you can see that's fairly flat across the head, and it just means that more of the wire is basically touching the head when it's under tension. So, you know, it's a nice idea. I mean, I think they've sort of phased it out, I think, really, but. You know what? I'm not as up to date with the newer. In fact, I lied. I have got more. Yeah, I mean, the other free floater that I've got doesn't have that on it, so I'm going to say they've probably stopped doing it. I'm not really up to date with all the more modern pearl stuff, but there's just something about this drum. It's got a lovely dry sound to it. And I've got, let me think, I've got 3 acrylites. I've got 2 of the original first generation sort of prototype ones. I've got a 67. I've got a cast aluminium 13x9 provenance drum, which is fantastic. But that you know, it's a cast shell, and it's about 3, 4, 5 mil thick, and you know, and it doesn't behave the same way as a rolled shell does. It obviously, you know, because there's more of it. But there's just something about this lowly drum which I absolutely love. It's just the sound. I think for me, the sound of for me, I think a really good snare drum sound is something that sounds good to me without my wherever they are, without my headphones on. Me ear defenders on, or with me in ears out, you know, just acoustically in the room. It's got a lovely ring to it. Yeah, it's just, this drum always sounds good to me in the room. Now, I've got some drums that seem to sound good under microphones. The AOT Keplinger was one of those. I never really connected with that drum. I've sold it now. Yeah, it lives with someone else. But I never really. It was a great drum, but I never really sort of connected with it. And then I listened to it after the recording that I did with it in here, and it sounded so much better on the recording than it did in person. But this drum, I've not recorded with it other than the video that I did with it. But in the room, this drum just always sounds so wonderful. It's got such a lovely clean ring to it, and that's really why I love it. I shall never be parted from that drum. Never. Right, moving along. I've got a couple of Tama drums here, and this, you know what? I'm going to say this is possibly my favourite Tama drum. Probably. You know, this is the Star Reserve 4 drum. This is the hand hammered copper shell in the incredibly polarizing colour scheme of you know, brass, dark copper and chrome. It's hard to see why people hated the colour scheme, you know, as much as they did. You know, I'm not. It's not my favourite finish, but you know, I was never that bothered about the you know, the way it was designed in that respect. But you know, they did a really nice video on this drum when it. There you go. When it came out, they did a great video on it on how they used two different ball peen hammers when hammering this shell. So they use a bigger one in the middle and a smaller one towards the outside the edges, and it's quite a dry sound, but there's still a lot of it's actually quite similar to the aluminium in that there's a lovely pure tone to it, and just like the aluminium, this drum sounds absolutely fantastic just in the room. I just love the way it sounds. It really is. If I was going to pick a top 3 of these drums, this would be in the top 3. These are my favourite 8 metal snare drums that I own. This is in the top 3. It's just something about it, you know. It's just, obviously it doesn't sound very good when my leg is muffling it, but you can hear the after ring going on. I've recommended this drum to a few people, and you know, I cannot recommend it enough. Really, you know, had I not had the issues that I'd had with Tama, they subsequently came out with another one of these, and I can't remember what it was. I can't remember if it was steel or aluminium. I don't think it would have been steel, so it's probably aluminium. Yeah, I think it's aluminium. Which you know, if I'm if I found one second hand, and if I was able to afford it, I would still definitely buy it. I don't mind buying second hand Tama stuff, but I won't buy brand new anymore. But yeah, it's just, I just love the sound of this drum. I really, there's something about it. It really is just such a great sounding snare drum. It really is. Okay, the next one in front of me is another cast bronze. Ooh. And this possibly won't be a surprise to anyone that actually knows me. There you go, it's the Peisty 2002 Spirit of 2002. I lusted after one of these for about 2 decades, and oh, you know, I saw this one advertised. Steve Maxwell had it up. I don't think it was the owner that he was selling it on consignment. I don't think the owner at that point was Cyndi Lauper's drummer, but this used to belong to Cyndi Lauper's drummer, and I can never remember his name. Sammy Merendino, I think it is. Yeah, this used to belong to him. It's just, you know, it's got the the same lugs as the Ochiltree. You know, see my sneaky look there. I look down at the, just to make sure. You know, there's nothing I don't love about this drum. I love the badge. I love the lugs. I love the hoops. Well, actually, you tell what, I lied. I don't love the strainer. But you know what? I've said this a few times. This strainer was the in strainer at the time this drum came out, you know. So it is what it is. I could put a replacement on there. I possibly will at some point. But the thing is with this and with the Ochiltree is that I have gigged both of them. But you know, I don't. This isn't a daily driver type situation for me. So you know, there's going to be less stress put on this thing, which hopefully will mean it will last longer. But like the Ochiltree, the other Ochiltree, because this was made by Ochiltree as well, or designed by Ochiltree. It was made by Duluth. It's a 5mm cast bronze shell, and unsurprisingly made of recycled Peisty 2002 cymbals, of which I am a fan, you know. But and this one is signed. This is number 226. This has actually got a sign. It's physically written in the drum, and it's got a stamp. This has got such a lovely, again, it's a common thing which I just like to hear from metal drums. It has such a nice pure ring to it, and it's just kind of like you got the initial spike, and then if you ever look at like a wave file or something, it's got that initial hit, and then it's just got that beautiful sort of tapering off, and that's exactly what this drum has. And I don't know if the mic's picking that up very well, but you know, it's you can hear it. It's just such a lovely taper. Always makes me happy when I play that drum. Again, I never thought I'd own one. You know, I got it really because, and I've said this in a recent video as well. I was fortunate enough to benefit from being given a slightly larger creditor amount than I was expecting, and you know, I think I've said this before, again fairly recently. A lot of buying these drums, especially the stuff like that and the Ochiltree, and you know, it very, very literally is the spirit of being in the right place at the right time, and also having the facility to be able to purchase things. And while some of these things have not been the most sensible purchases, they certainly make me happy, and I've certainly been very lucky with it as well. So, right, I was going to say, actually, you know, I mean, there's let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's like 5 of these drums are worth multi thousands. But this one, this actually was, you know what? When this was brand new, this was actually a lot cheaper than. Actually, you know what? This is probably, when this was brand new, this was the cheapest to buy at that point, which is quite amusing now because this is now the most expensive. These things sell for, like, you know, 5,000 quid, or certainly dollars anyway. It's because there was only 50 of them. Actually, that's a bit of a lie. I think there's slightly more than 50. But so this is another AK. This is the other AK, and this is basically the metal snare drum that I always and frequently cite as my favourite metal snare drum. This is the AK Craviotto nickel over brass diamond series. So this is the 14.6.5. This is number 7. I also have the 5.5 inch version, which is, I think, number 13. I'd need to look. I think it's number 13. This is very similar in principle to the Triumphal in that it's a 2-piece brass shell. But this was the first collaboration between Johnny Craviotto and Adrian Kirschler, which came out in 2008, I think it was. I think actually this is kind of the one that sort of started off. I'm pretty sure. Yes, no. So this is the one that kind of started me off, and I think this was the first AK drum that I got. I got this from Steve Maxwell, brand new, and that was after I was stupid enough to sit on the fence just long enough to miss out on the special run of these, which came out and had gold hardware. And I gave myself a big virtual slap round the head after I missed out on that, because you know, those drums, I mean, these are worth a lot by themselves. The other ones will be worth even more, I think. You know, I mean, these are like $5,000 odd drums on a certainly on a good day. I mean, I've seen them go for $5,000. But these have gone up. These are more than doubled in value. They were £1,800, or give or take. They're about £1,800 when they came out, and as I said, they've gone up in value. But they've got the Craviotto Diamond. Obviously, you can see that. The panel here has got Craviotto USA and 07 out of 50 on it. 10 tube lugs, double-ended tube lugs. The good old Trick GS007 there with the diamond butt plate. This drum is incredibly light, and I will demonstrate that by holding it up with my little finger. I'm not saying that doesn't, you know, put some pressure on it, but these are fantastically. They're very thin shells, and they're very light drums. But I've always loved this drum. And the reason why I've always cited this as my favourite metal drum is really, it's just the purity of the ring on the sound. And obviously, it looks hot too, doesn't it? There's just something about it. I mean, I've had this. This is probably I think this is probably the original. It's not the original head. I've got the original head next door with a whole stash of Crav heads, but this will be the original ambassador that I put on it when I got it in 2008, and I don't know if that's showing up on the camera, but this has been very well played. There's a bit of a bald spot there. Well, in terms of the coating, there's a bit of a bald spot or wear spot, but you know, it's just such a fantastic drum to. It's making the other drums rattle. Yeah. Any drum that you can hear ringing for a few seconds after you've just hit it with your middle finger is a good drum, in my book. And I don't think that really will probably be picking up on the camera. I could probably stick it up to the microphone, but there's a ring on this drum that goes on for a few seconds, even when I just hit it with my finger. And that is the reason why I love this drum. You know, it has nothing to do with the fact that it was expensive. It has nothing to do with the fact it is more expensive now than it was when I bought it. It's just such a wonderful drum. And as I said, turning into the gushing fanboy thing again, Adrian just makes the best metal snare drums of that class, that type, out there. You know, he really does. I mean, I'm not sure I would want to see Adrian making the, you know, more contemporary type drums, like, you know, like the Tama or the Paiste. I don't think I would ever want to see Adrian make a drum like that. Not that he would, you know, but it would just be so, for me, that would be something that would be just so completely wrong. You know, it just wouldn't, even conceptually, it just wouldn't work, because he does such a fine job with this sort of thing, and he's obviously got a bit of a niche market going on. Not that much of a niche market, but basically, when you're that good, and he is, it becomes a niche market for you. That's this drum. As I said, this is the drum that I frequently cite as being my personal favourite metal snare drum, and that's kind of the reason why. Right, so the next one is actually the second lowliest snare drum on this list. But you know what? I just love. I'm going to stick this. You know what? I'm going to stick this drum on the kit after I've done this, because I haven't played it in a little while, and I've been meaning to get it out for ages. And well, with one thing and another, I just haven't got round to it. But Charlie Benanti of Anthrax is a guy who I was following for a long time. I've been listening to Anthrax since 1987. And wow, okay, that's a long time. I've been listening to Anthrax for a very long time. I had a bit of a spot in the middle, like, you know, where I kind of gravitated away from that, but I came back, and I'll always give Anthrax a listen, and I've always been a lifelong fan of Charlie's playing, and you know, he is one of the leaders, still is one of the leaders in the you know, sort of thrash speed metal front. I think a lot of the stuff that he was doing a long time ago obviously influenced and, you know, changed metal drumming, I think, you know, into at least partially what it is now. Not that I'm not a big I'm not a big metal drummer. I'm not in any shape or form a metal drummer. You know, but I enjoy listening to the genre. I still enjoy listening to the genre, even though most of the time I'm listening to stuff that is actually from the 80s and 90s. But I've been a lifelong fan of Charlie's, and I've got one of his drumsticks in the other room. I've got one of his drumsticks before he was actually a Vic Firth endorser, and he's been a Vic Firth endorser for like 3 odd decades. But the stick I've got in the other room came from when Anthrax played in London at the Hammersmith Odeon, which isn't actually that far from here, in about 86 or 87. I think it was probably 87. I think it was when they supported Metallica on the Master of Puppets tour, and they played over here. And I didn't get to go to the show. I think I missed out on it, but I did know someone's brother I went to school with. His brother went, and he managed to get a stick. And for years, I was bugging him about like, could I have this stick? Because his brother didn't care about it, and then my mate used to taunt me about it, and then he moved to Wisconsin, and he gave it to me before he moved, and so that's up on the wall. It's a drumstick made by the modern I think it was the Modern Drum Shop of in NYC. I think that's where it's from. And I've also got one of his old 18-inch 2002 Novo Chinas, which is very bulk standard. I mean, it's gone a bit a bit green in places and mucky and everything else because the coating went on it. But it's an 18-inch 2002 China, but it's got the purple Anthrax script on and the Pentathrax, you know. So it's cool. But this drum, I bought this a few years ago now. And it's dirty as hell. You'd think I'd clean these things, but as I said, I haven't actually had this out for a little while, and oh, that's good. It's coming off. That's good. Whew, it's lucky. I did a bit of research on this before. My word, there are fingerprints on this thing. I really should wear gloves when handling these. I think I wanted. So I had a few pennies spare a few years ago. I say that a lot, but I had a few pennies spare, and I've been looking at getting something, and I'd been looking at this drum for quite a while. And I sat and listened, as I do with many of these things. I sat and listened to as many basically YouTube videos as I could, including the official Tama one. And the only thing with things like that is nothing against Tama, because obviously it's not just them, but they want their products to sound the best. So you never really know what kind of you know, trickery or whatever, you know, EQ effects and processing has been put on a drum. And that's one thing that I don't do in here. I mean, I do put some EQ on things, but a lot of that is to take out some of the crap rather than you know, enhance anything so much. I mean, I'll boost. I have actually done a video. I haven't put it up yet about my mic setup and what I sort of do when I'm doing these things. But really, all I do is get rid of some of the nasty stuff in the middle, the mid frequencies, and then maybe boost a little bit at the end and boost a little bit of the high. That's really all I do. But this drum that I'm now cleaning intensely, I looked at it and listened to it a lot, you know, and I kind of decided to take the plunge on it. Now there is actually there was anyway, because I remember seeing it. There was a Tama. I mean, it was a bit cheaper than this, but it wasn't too much cheaper. And this was basically like a hot rodded version of that. And I can't remember what the model number of that was, but there was subtle differences. Like, I mean, this had like better hardware on it. But the thing for me is that this is a 14 by 6.5 metal shell, steel shell. Sorry, and. Okay, so 14 by 6.5 is my preferred size. I like 14 6.5 drums a lot. So it's a steel shell. Now, I actually did say recently that I'm not the biggest fan of steel shells, and I'm not. But the thing with this, and this is something that he covers off in the video for this, is that this actually has I'll get it so it's not in the light. As you can see, this has got a black coating inside. And that coating takes some of that nasty sort of brashness that I think steel sometimes has. It takes it out, and it's a lot more of a controlled sound. And by the time you see this, I will have actually put up a little recording that I did a few years ago, a proper recording in the studio, not here. Where my lot were recording an album. I actually used this on a few tracks on that album, but I used this on that particular track that you can go and watch. And it was really just a straightforward sort of 4 on the floor, very mid-tempo song, but it sounds great. I mean, even just listening back to it. So what I've done in that video is most of it is actually the full song, because I didn't get the stems just for the drums. I did on one track, but the rest of it I didn't get the stems for. So you can basically hear it in the context of the whole song, but I did cut it out in the middle, and I cut out a few bars of literally, it was the same camera that I'm talking to now with the same microphone on it. And I've just cut that middle bit out so you can hear what the sound of the kit and the snare was like in the room. And again, this is another one that just sounds great in the room, without any of that sort of, you know, funny overtones or harshness or ring or whatever. It is a fairly basic drum though. I mean, it's 10 double-ended lugs. You know, you've got timers. You know, I still haven't ever got round to looking up what this damn thing's called. You know, the double strainer. It's got the Knotman on the badge. If you're not into Anthrax, you'll have no idea what the Knotman is. But I don't know if you can see that. There you go. You can maybe sort of see it there. Comes with Evans heads on it because he's an Evans endorser. So this is a power center reverse dot. This head works fine for me. And again, a hazy 300 on the bottom, but and Star Classic wires. But as he said, it's just, I'm not being the biggest fan of steel snare drums in the world, but this absolutely is, I think, my favourite steel snare drum. Because it's just, obviously, you know, it's got die-cast hoops on it as well, which will have an effect on drying the sound out a little bit. So, you know, I think it's a combination of the hoops and the colour that we, you know, the finish inside that really sort of tames the shell. I think that's probably the best word. Tames the steel shell to where I like it. And so we'll just I'll actually hit this one with a stick. You know? Needs a bit of a. It's the only thing with you know, doing this when you haven't seen the drum for a while. It's not as long a ring as some of the other drums that I've spoken about. You know, in fact, probably most of these drums. It's not a. It's a very like that, as opposed to some of the others, which is a gradual taper. This is a very short, sharp sort of thing. But again, it's a very pure sound, and it's got a lovely. I mean, this isn't even that high. You know, really isn't. This isn't cranked or anything, but it's got such a great amount of body to it. It really has. And you know, if I needed a daily driver metal drum, this would probably be it, I think. You know, it's because it's a production model. You know, if anything happened to it or whatever, you know, I know I could go out buy another one. You know, but it's just, yeah, this is a great workhorse drum. It really is, and you know, I think steel. I've said it before. I think steel is one of those. If you're going to get a metal snare drum with your first kit, it's almost always going to be, I think, a steel snare drum. It's kind of just like where you start as a drummer, unless you're inheriting a kit from someone. If you're just going to go and buy, you know, you buy a second-hand kit like a Pearl Export or a Premier XPK or an APK, you know, chances are it's going to come with a metal snare drum, and if it's going to be a metal snare drum, there's even more chance it's going to be a steel snare drum. So I think most of us probably own or start with a steel snare drum. I still can't say it. Steel snare drum very early on in our playing, you know. But this is absolutely my favourite steel snare drum out of all the ones I've got. You know, and okay, right, yeah. So Now I'm reminding myself this is actually the head that it came with. So I've put this on it. So well, there you go, live and learn. So I've put the power center reverse dot on here, and I don't quite know why this is still in the box, but there you go. It actually came with a G1 on it, but so we'll throw that away. Yeah, so there you go. It sounds excellent with an Evans power center dot on it. Oh well, I should have seen that coming, really, shouldn't I? But so the last drum, and as I said, these haven't been in any particular order. The Brass Craviotto is my favourite metal snare drum. You know, I mean, there's no doubt about that. It just that's the way it is. Or as Bruce Hornsby once said, that's just the way it is. This last drum is the last of the cast bronze, and I like this. I think this, you know, out of all these drums, I think this is probably. I mean, this is a close tie between the AK, the gold AK, and this one. The gold AK was for me, and this one. This one, Alan very kindly. Now, Alan Van Cleef is another one of those guys, like Adrian Kirschler, in my opinion. And he's one of those guys because of basically what he does. And in the same way as I said, I would never want to see Adrian Kirschler make anything like this. I would never really want to see Alan Van Cleef make something like what Adrian does. I just think it would be a complete waste, because Alan does such a fantastic job with what he does that there would be, you know, I think it would be, you know, I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't be interesting, but it was just like, to me, if I want this type of drum, I would look at Alan Van Cleef, or like, you know, Ron Dennett as well does, you know, he does his thing, and they're kind of like, you know, they're just slightly different. They're slightly left of centre, and that's why I like them. But I'm not going to wave this around too much because it is so bloody heavy. It's just right. But there you go. Right, this is, and I've not done this one on the channel yet. So I have two of these. Of course, as you do. So I have a 14 by 6.5. And if for those of you who haven't guessed, this is a VK cast, or V-cast. So it's a 5mm thick cast bronze shell with cast bronze. Oh god, here we go. With cast bronze hoops as well. So the other one is a 14 by 6.5. This is a 13 by 7. Now, I got the 14 by 6.5 first. I asked Alan if he would put my daughter's details on the snare mechanism, which he obligingly did. I like that drum so much that I pretty much, within a very short period of time, ordered this one. And thankfully, because Alan has a bit of a lead time in you order something and you'll get it generally a couple of months later, that gave me enough time to sell a few things. So I could now then purchase one of these or purchase this, which was great. But this this drum has actually got my daughter's it's actually my daughter's name and her star sign on the strainer, and then it's got her not to scale paw print all the way around it as well. I mean, she still is a baby, but when she was smaller as a baby. I've got to say, I mean, having played the two drums, I mean, the 14 by 6.5 is an absolute beast. And it's funny that I say it's funny. I mean, it may not be too much of a surprise to say that the 14 6.5 actually weighs more than the 14 by 8 Ochiltree down there. The hoops are very heavy. But I've always liked shallower head size, but a deeper shell. So I've got a good few 12 by 7s and a couple of 12 by 6.5s as well. And I've got a couple of 13 by 7s as well. In fact, my first Donette, which I had to dig out and do another video on. I think that was one of the earliest videos I did on the channel. And at the time I got that Donette, in 2004, it was probably one of the first Donettes in the country as well, because I bought that directly from Ron in Canada. And that was before it had any air holes in it as well. So I mean, that's a great drum, but it's got a very specific sound. But I like that size. That's a 13 by 7. As I said, this is a 13 by 7 as well. And it's something about it. If you gave me a choice of the 14 by 6.5 and the 13 by 7 ones of these, I will actually choose this one, the 13, because it's just something about it. I don't know what it is. I mean, there's not too much in it, but it's just something about the sound and the feel of this drum. It just does something more for me. It's, as I said, it's a 5mm thick cast bronze shell with the big heavy cast hoops as well. I'll give it this one. And unlike some of these other drums that have got that pure ring that I keep going on about, this is just pure, as delicate and sort of one potential job only that gold triumphal is. This is the same thing except the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And I'm not, I mean, these are Todd Zuckerman signature sticks. So they're a rock maple. So it's a maple stick. It's kind of a sort of a 5B type size. I think I'm right in saying that. It certainly reminds me of a 5B anyway. But so I mean, this is actually, for me, this is quite a bigger stick to what I normally use. Certainly when I gig anyway, I use a smaller stick. But in here, actually, possibly not so much. But you need to kind of hit these things because they can take it, you know. But I love Alan's work. I love the precision, like just with the strainer. You know, the strainer is one of the things that I think I first noticed about Alan's work, and it's just so engineered and so crafted. And the V key, which for those of you who haven't seen one of Alan's drums, there you go. There's the drum key for it. It lives basically inside the part of the mechanism there. You know, and it's a wonderful idea. It's very simple. It's very straightforward, but you've got to wonder why more people have never thought of it. I mean, most people's mechanisms aren't basically a flat piece there, but I've never had any issues with the mechanism. I think it looks great. I kind of was like a little very early on. I was kind of undecided about how I felt about the lugs, and you know what, I do actually like them. I was kind of like, you can get an option with these. I mean, and obviously it costs more, but you get an option with these where you can actually have them as tube lugs, and I didn't go for it because I think, you know, the design kind of, I don't know what it was actually. I think it reminded me of some other drums, but it's just the design grew on me, and I quite like it now because, I mean, these are like machined. I'm not sure what the metal is. They're quite heavy and quite substantial, you know. But these are like all machined by Alan. Alan makes most of this stuff himself, you know, and it's just, you know, it's just all very precise, and I really like that. You know, it's certainly, there's something about it which just, it's the precision just really appeals to me. But you know, as I said, it's kind of like it's kind of a one trick sort of thing. That's not to say that you can't do other things with it, but then again, why would you be doing like a jazz gig or a blues gig with something that weighs over 30 pounds? I mean, I know Elvin played a bell bronze, but like, you know, but that's, you know, he was better than me, and you know, he was entitled to make his own decisions in that respect. You know what? It's just this is a fantastic drum. Obviously, you'd hope it would be for the price that these things are, but like, you know, it really is a fantastic drum, and it's made all the more special for me because it's basically it's because it's got my daughter's name and handprint on it. And it just means so much to me, you know. So, I mean, not that anyone would ever want a drum with my name on it, or with my daughter's handprint on it, or a name on it. So, I mean, but you know, I'd never get rid of them. Well, I mean, I'd never get rid of any of these really, but like, you know, I'd never get rid of this or the other one, you know, because they're very special to me. So, but. And as I said, it goes without saying, really, that, you know, it's just, I am going to put this down because it really does weigh a ton. Oh dear. But it goes without saying, it plays beautifully, and I will get around to doing a video on it, so you can hear what it sounds like. But and this is very much still a very loud. You can play this drum unmiked and still be heard at the back of the room kind of drum, you know. But that's it. Those are my favourite metal shelled snare drums. I mean, I've got a couple of others that were kind of, I think, up there as well. I mean, I'm looking at the Provenance 13x9, which is I've got a couple of Tim's drums. That was the white one. I'll dig it. I'll put the photo on the screen so you know the one that I'm talking about. But that one's the cast aluminium, 13x9, so it's effectively a tom. But that one came basically with the Craviotto kit. That was actually the snare drum that was on the kit when it was used on the Kylie Minogue World Tour. The matching Craviotto wood snare drum for that kit wasn't really used. He was basically using that 13x9. I found that it doesn't, despite being a 13x9, it works better in a sort of medium to higher range for me, with the way I've got it set up. It's got a Remo, it's got a CS dot on the top actually, and a regular hazy on the bottom. But that one, the TK Torres free floater would be another sort of close, sort of a close one. Because it's an aluminium shell, it's got a lot of the same properties as the aluminium one, which I did pick up. Again, it's got a lovely ring to it, and I think the thing is with that, both of those, they're both aluminium drums. I personally think they are both a bit of a sleeper, respectively, because they just sound so good. They really do. Pearl did a great job with those. And another one which, off the top of my head, would sort of be up there, would be the it's another AK Craviotto. There's a bit of a theme going on there, isn't there? It's the brass copper hybrid 14x6. It's 14x6.5. And there's just something about that. I think those are the only two hybrid metal drums I've got. There's just something about it which just really works well. And it's got an interesting sound. It's got a great feel. And, I really like that drum as well. So I hope that was interesting. I guess part 2 is my favourite wood snare drums out of this little stash. I guess I'll be doing that at some point in the very near future. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.